You know, people go through several seasons in life.
Okay.
I'm in the season of not sleeping ever.
That's true. You have a baby.
But there's also like spring, which we're in.
Yeah.
There's also then summer.
There's like thyme.
Dude,
There's oregano.
You know what I thought of? Winter is the first and last season of the year. Are there 5 seasons in a year?
Oh, I see.
Does that mean there's 5?
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm still freaked out about winter. I'm Mike.
When is winter even?
We have so little of it here in California.
It does. It's the only one that's, at least in terms of like how we celebrate New Year's, it's like, it's
Look at winter, just be like, I'll have both the ends.
I'll have both
You're
the
like,
ends.
well, you
Wow,
gotta have both
what a
ends.
bad way to start and end the year.
I know, the darkest times ever. We gotta move to the Southern Hemisphere, man.
I never said my name. I'm Nick, that's Mike.
Mike.
We're gonna talk about games with seasons, and this can be a whole bunch of different kinds of seasons, but mostly kind of like winter, summer, spring, different kinds of
The time
seasons.
of year factors into the game, or it's part of the thematic story you're telling.
There's a lot where it's like,
oh,
in this season you can do these things, and this season you can do now these
Right.
things. There's a whole bunch, and there's a couple other games with seasons here that we'll sprinkle in. But yeah, let's go and get to it.
Summer 10 does not have like a season in the sense of like summer and stuff, but it is about baseball season, and it includes spring training, spring season. This is Baseball Highlights 2045. We talk about this game a lot. This is a really fun deck building game where you are simulating playing games of baseball, except for you now have robots and cyborgs and stuff because we're in the future. We got to spice up this game a little bit so you have a bunch of like sci-fi elements included in your games of baseball now. What's really cool is you play out a card, you're simulating an entire inning of baseball, meaning I'm going to defend and play offensively on the same card. So if Nick was to go first, my buddy there, Nick, he was to play a card that's going to threaten a double. I might play a card that's going to catch that ball, meaning I'm going to negate your double. And guess what I'm trying to threaten? 2 singles. So now Nick's going to play a card and have to react to what I'm now proposing for my offense, and then also propose their offense in addition to kind of trying to deal defensively with what I've got going on. So it's a great game of kind of the tug of war of like, you know what, I'm gonna let you have your 2 singles because I've got something for later. I've got this person's gonna hit 3 home runs. They're just a slugger. And so I'm gonna back pocket that, get you, thinking that everything's all safe and good, and then hopefully get something right at the very end of the game. And after each game, you will recruit new characters. And what's really great about this is you only ever have a set amount of cards ever. So if you gain a new card, you have to send someone down to the minors. So you don't ever have deck bloat. You just get a better and better, more kind of refined and specific deck of cards as you go through the game. We love baseball personally, so we like to play it around this time of year every year because it's baseball season.
Armor 9 technically doesn't have seasons, but this is going to be Petrichor. Petrichor is a game where you are weather, you're clouds, you're rain, you're weather, basically. And there are going to be a tile, there's going to be a grid of tiles, going to be different kinds of plants, like potatoes and corn and stuff like that. And you are, I guess you're rain, because you have different colored droplets based off the different player colors, and you are going to be putting your rain into various clouds, moving those clouds around and raining those clouds down onto the earth and onto these various tiles. And these tiles will then sprout depending on how much rain is on them. So certain plants take more rain to sprout, certain plants take less rain to sprout, and you essentially want then area control on those tiles. You want to have more of your colored raindrops on that tile than anyone else, and then therefore you get to score the most points, usually. And the cool thing about this game is you are then playing, depending on what actions you're doing, you're playing out these, they're not technically season cards, but they kind of are, because you're playing out these cards that will be either rain, sun, wind, or frost. And so it's kind of that spring, summer, fall, winter type thing. So it's not technically seasons, but in my opinion, it falls underneath this kind of general idea of seasons. Our first choice was Baseball Highlights. Give us a break. And so you're playing out these cards, and that's kind of dictate what you're going to do. And it's a really cool game. And there's a whole bunch of different crops you can put down. And the where they're put down in the grid makes makes a difference too. There's a whole bunch of different expansions for this game. It's a really cool concept of game that we really enjoy, but mainly it's just like, man, what an awesome idea for a game. And a way to be like, I want to make a game about weather and about kind of seasons and the different actions you can do with that. And it works. And it's just such a cool idea that where you're really thinking outside the box in terms of the theme and the mechanics. And I really, really like Petrichor.
Number 8 is Creature Comforts. It's a game about preparing for winter, which is upcoming. You're trying to get as cozy as possible, building the best things, having just the most kind of comfort as you can before you settle into a nice long winter, board games and hanging out and making soups and things like that. So you're going out and gathering resources. And what's really fun is you don't really know for sure what you're going to be able to do each round because you're rolling out dice. Now, some dice are kind of from the town and everyone gets to use them. You don't know what those are going to be, but you have your own personal dice as well. So at least you get to roll those and know what values you have for a couple of your dice because a lot of the spaces will do different things or give you better rewards depending on the value of the dice. So there's kind of a lot of fun, interesting, like I'm going to play some workers out here. Hopefully the right things come my way so I can make kind of the best use of the time I have before winter. And it's all about, again, creating comfort. Literally, your points are in comfort. You can create soups and pair them with breads. You can make board games. You can darn socks and things like that. So it's just a really appealing theme about just kind of settling in for a nice, quiet winter. That's something that in California we don't experience. So it's kind of nice to have a game that makes me think about like the snow's coming soon. Let me get prepared. That is Creature Comforts.
Number 7 has 4 seasons in it, and that is Frankie Valli and the 4 Seasons. It's not. It's Key Flow. Same thing, basically. Key Flow, is it not about Frankie Valli and the 4 Seasons? I guess it isn't, but it basically is. Key Flow is within the Key universe, there's a Keeper and Key Market, but Key Flow is very similar to Key Flower. Key Flow essentially is a card drafting version of Key Flower, and it's our personal favorite of the key games that we've played, and we like it more than Key Flower because it's a little less mean. But this is a game where you're drafting out these cards and you're going through the seasons. The first season you're going to be in spring and you're drafting out spring cards, summer, fall, and then winter. And as the game goes on, in spring and summer, basically all the cards are going to be some kind of production. So you're producing like coal, metal, gold, wood, that, classic Euro kind of stuff. And you're getting animals. You can get like pigs and cows and stuff like that. But then when you go into fall, then there's some production, but there's also some endgame scoring cards, and then winter is going to be all endgame scoring stuff. And you're drafting out these cards. Excuse me. And you're drafting out these cards, and then you're putting these cards down your tableau, but then you're also drafting out these Keeple cards, which are little meeple cards. And the meeple cards are how you activate those cards, and how you activate those cards. And when you activate those cards, you then get those resources, or you can maybe move those resources to where they need to go. It's super, super fun. We really like Key Flower, but we absolutely adore Key Flow. Key Flow is super cool because you can use stuff in each other's kingdoms, but it doesn't hurt them, and it doesn't stop them from using it. You can be like, okay, I'm actually going to use this one right here, and they go like, okay, it doesn't matter to them. And it's just really, I don't know, there's less conflict in it, and we don't really love conflict in games. But you're going through the 4 seasons in Key Flow, and it's really, really fun.
Number 6 is the networks. Now, this doesn't deal with seasons like we said in spring, summer, fall, but it does deal with seasons of a show. And we think that is just a really cool thing because there's not many games that deal with kind of the entertainment industry much, and something like shows and going through different seasons is actually really kind of fascinating. And having a game that deals with that is really cool because when you develop shows and attach stars and ads to these shows, in the first year of a show, it might be kind of popular and bring in a few million viewers and stuff, but in the second season, because you have this star that's attached, it's now becoming more popular, the word is out about this show. In the second season, you might get like 11 million viewers. The third season might do even better still, but then the fourth season kind of things fall off the cliff. Maybe the writers went on strike or something like that, and it's all about determining how long do I let a show go before I cancel it and put in a new show in its time slot to kind of freshen things up. And how many seasons do you let something ride? So we just love that idea of like getting the right stars attached to the right shows. Some of them are known for comedy, so if you put them in a drama, they might not do so well. But if you put them in an area where they're known, it might boost your viewership even more. It's just a really fascinating way that you kind of play out all your cards into your kind of lineup of shows. We think it's really fun and fascinating. It's one that we've loved for a long, long time. And that theme and dealing with the seasons of shows just absolutely carries it. And we wish there was more shows that, or games rather, that deal with TV and movies and shows and Hollywood.
Number 5 is a new 2-player game that we really enjoy, and this is Beer and Bread. And in Beer and Bread, there are not normal seasons as in spring, summer, fall, and winter, but there are dry seasons and fruitful seasons, and they are called that, so it counts. Beer and Bread is a great 2-player game where you are rival families that live across a river, and your families brew beer and bake bread. And every year you come together and you have a competition of who can brew the best beer and make the best bread. It's hard to say. A lot of B's in there. And every year it's going to alternate between being a fruitful year and a dry year. And the fruitful years is going to be way more crops, way more resources. And dry years you're going to have less, but you have some other actions you can do. So you're really trying to balance getting resources in fruitful years, and then usually in dry years is when you want to be making a bunch of beer and making a bunch of bread. And it's super cool because each card is try-use cards. 3 ways to use it. You can harvest that card. You can put the card down and you will get the resources at the top of the card, which will be like, rye, wheat, barley, water, things like that. Or you can bake or brew the middle of the card. The middle of the card will have either beer or bread on it, and you can bake or brew it. And on the bottom of the card is going to be some kind of special power, endgame scoring, or ongoing ability that you will tuck underneath your board. And there's no limit to how many of those things you have. And so it's really tough to figure out how you want to use the card, because a lot of times you're like, man, this would be really good to harvest this card, but man, I really want this special ability. And it's got a ton of crunchy choices. And it's just such a good game. And those 2 seasons do feel different, and it's just really good. We love Beer and Bread.
Number 4 is, at this point, a classic game. This is Everdell. This is a game where you're going through the 4 seasons as you prepare for winter. You want to have a really good year in the spring, summer, and fall of building up constructions and adding critters to your tableau as you kind of build up your town. A lot of the cards will pair with critters, the constructions that you can build, and so you're really trying to eke out as much as you can out of what is ultimately a fairly tight amount of resources to build as best you can and be as efficient as you can. There's a bunch of different types of buildings, different card colors and stuff that will do different things. Like green cards are production cards, so they will produce when you build them. They'll produce a couple other times of year, so they're going to give you more resources. So maybe I build up a bunch of those early on so I can make use of that a few times throughout the game. There's other cards that have one-time benefits, these blue cards which will give you discounts and things throughout the game. And then cards that give you additional worker placement spaces, all sorts of stuff like that. So there's really a ton of options with all the expansions, and especially a lot of cards that you can potentially get for your town. So it's really fun to kind of build up all those synergistic combos in this game. And we just love that you move kind of quietly and gently through a year and end with winter, and you hopefully have everything kind of built up and nice and ready to just kind of ride it out. So Everdell's got that wonderful animal theme. The kind of construction and collecting berries and things like that are just really charming. It's one that a lot of people have liked for a long time now. That's Everdell.
Number 3 has 2 distinct seasons. I guess it technically has 4 seasons, but it's 2. And this is Fields of Arle. Fields of Arle has summer and winter, which is when you're going to be doing your actions. And I think there's like some cleanup stuff that's spring and fall. But nonetheless, it's summer and winter. This is a Uwe Rosenberg farming game, classic, but it has peat bogs in it. Great, you love a peat bog. And so this is a game where you're kind of doing a lot of classic Uwe stuff. You're putting down tiles into this kind of tableau. You can activate, there's different buildings you can get. You're getting different animals. Those animals are breeding. You have to feed your people. It's a lot of kind of Uwe stuff, but it feels very, very different. And one of the main reasons is because of the way you do your actions. There is a big action board, but it's split into two sides. One side is summer, one side is winter. On the summer rounds, you can only do stuff in summer. In the winter rounds, you can only do stuff in winter. And they do different things. Certain ones are kind of better at certain things, and winter is better at certain things other than summer. And so this game has two distinct seasons. You're kind of playing this side, and then playing this side, and then this side. And it's just really, really fun. And other than that, it's really good Uwe Rosenberg goodness. And I feel like of Uwe's big box games, like your Agricola's, Caverna's, Feast for Odin's, I feel like this one kind of gets overlooked a lot, and it's really, really good and feels very different for an Uwe Rosenberg game. It's still very Uwe, but nonetheless, it just doesn't feel like Caverna or Agricola or any of those other ones. And so I really like Fields of Arle, and it has those two very distinct seasons in it, so it fits this list.
Number 2 is Viticulture. Now, Viticulture with Tuscany even goes further, but this game you are dealing with in the base game summer and winter, or with Viticulture Tuscany, all 4 seasons, as you are making, running your own vineyard and making wines. In this game, in the early parts of the year, you're going to gain vine cards and plant those. In the back half of the year, in the fall and winter, you're going to be harvesting your fields, preparing your, your grapes into wines and stuff, hopefully letting those wines age and fulfilling contracts, because people want certain types of wines. So you want to have the right values and the types of wines to sell to gain kind of victory points, gain money and things like that. This game is just one of the first ones I think that we ever came across that dealt with seasons. Again, in the base game, you have summer and the winter. And I just love the idea of, and it kind of makes sense, in the early part of the year, you're planting, the latter half of the year, you're harvesting. So that was something that intuitively really helped reinforce the mechanisms of the game, because we know enough about agriculture. We're not farmers, Nick and I, but we know enough to kind of know that that's the sort of sequence of planting and harvesting throughout the year. So that really helped us kind of hook into this game. It's just really fun to build up your vineyard with specialized buildings, and using summer and winter visitor cards to kind of boost up the types of actions you can do. Viticulture is just ridiculously great. It's Nick's favorite game, and for good reason. A piece of that is the season mechanisms really helps kind of hook you into what you're doing in the game in a really satisfying way. And it makes the game easier to play.
And number 1 has to be, absolutely has to be, seasons. Because this is a game about games with seasons. And seasons is literally about seasons. It has spring, summer, fall, and winter in it. And in this game, you are going through a 3-year period where you're putting on these kind of, I guess these kind of like festivals, you're some kind of celebration, basically. And you are, your draft cards and being in the game, and it's an engine builder where you're placing out these different cards. There's going to be different abilities, different familiars you can get, and you're going through the seasons of the game. And so in the first part of the game, you're in spring, and you'll be rolling out these super chunky dice. I mean, just max dumb chunk dice. And you're rolling out these dice, and then you're going to draft these dice, and these dice are most going to give you elements. They're going to give you water, air, fire, and earth. And in the different seasons of the game, certain elements are more prominent than other ones. So in spring, there's going to be a lot of earth, a lot of water, not much fire, not much wind. In summer, a lot more fire, unfortunately, and not so much water. And so it kind of depends on what season you're in, and then whatever die doesn't get chosen, that's going to move forward, essentially the time tracker. And once it moves over into a new season, that next round, you're then going to put back the spring die, and now we're using summer dice. And so you know kind of what things are most likely to come up in the different seasons, and you can kind of plan for that while you're playing out these cards. And you're essentially trying to get crystals. These cards will mostly give you points, but they might also generate crystals through them, and you can get points that way. It's just so much fun. There's a ton of different cards. You can build out your engine in a lot of different ways, and it's just a great dice drafting game with just the chunkiest dice. It's got some great giga bits too. And Seasons is just so much fun, and it has to be number 1 on the list. It's literally called Seasons. It has seasons. It's about seasons. It's really, really good. So we had a couple cheeky ones in there.
Listen, just be happy. We could have said this is beach season, It's fashion season.
Exactly.
We could have done all
We could have
sorts of
done
stuff.
Pret-a-Porter. We could have done a
could
whole
have
bunch
had Rococo
in there. Beach season, baby.
You're lucky that we didn't put those in, but we did have to have a couple of cheeky. It's baseball, you know.
And there's also not that many games that we could think of that had like legit seasons in it, but you know. But hey, but nonetheless, that is our top 10 games with seasons in them. Let us know down in the comments below what games you missed. I feel like there's a couple that we just couldn't think of that are there.
I'm sure. Oh, there's a million of
But
them.
no, whatever, we'll see.
You know where you can find out about those games?
mate?
Board Game Geek, which is where you are. So check that
Easy.
out. Boom, 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 boom.
Let us know down below the games you like from this list or other games that we missed. And until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. We'll see you later, everybody.
Bye.